Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to What's Your Take? My name is Dayo Akintobi, and I will be taking you through the major stories that made the headlines this past week, yesterday, today, and always. Joining me to bring those stories today to you is our newscaster, Yetunde Afolabi. Good morning, Yetunde. How are you today? Good morning, Yetunde. How are you today?
Morning, Dai. I'm very well, thank you.
All right, very good. It was a weekend of pomp and pageantry with the coronation of King Charles. Did you get a chance to watch that Yetunde?
Yes, I did, and Tiwa Savage performed.
Yeah.
People made some negative comments about it because she sang this song, which is meant to celebrate Black independence, and she's singing it at a quote-unquote white event.
Ah, wow. So a bit of activism there on Tiwa's part, eh?
Heavy activism.
Ah, okay. Well, interesting. We'll see how that pans out in the coming days. The thing for me that struck me when I saw her on stage was I remember the scandal of her sex video from a while back, and to think that she could come back from that onto the world stage at such a major event, it shows that you should never give up. You're never down and out, because you can always make a comeback. You know, you can always clean up whatever errors have occurred, and you're never down and out is the long and short of this. You can always still make amends for anything that happens that seems to be negative. So kudos to her for that massive comeback, because I mean this was a world stage, and she performed quite well and made Nigeria proud.
Yeah, she did. All
right. Okay, so let's look at one or two minor issues before we dig into the major headlines. The opposition parties in Nigeria, that's all parties that are not the APC, are opposing the president-elect's choice, or the party's choice of who they want for Senate president. Senate President-elect Tinubu has endorsed Godswill Akpabio as the next Senate president. Well, the opposition parties are saying they're having none of it. There are some people in the APC as well that are objecting to that and saying some think that the Southeast, who seems to have been excluded from all the juicy positions so far, especially the presidency, that the Southeast should be given a shot at the number 3 position, and on the basis of equity, fairness, and justice, are still holding out and saying they won't endorse Akpabio. We'll see how that goes in the coming days. Good news on the Sudan evacuation front. About 800 more Nigerians were brought in to the country over the weekend. We saw them arriving in Abuja with horror stories about their experiences trying to get out of that country, and boy, it's heartbreaking and tear-rendering when you listen to some of their tales of woe. But we're glad they're back home, and we wish them good luck in resettling here and making something out of their lives. Another thing that bothered me over the weekend was this report that the UK Nursing Council wants to probe 512 Nigerian nurses for fraudulent exam results. Are we saying we have taken Yahoo all the way to the UK now? What is this about exam malpractice or false fake results that we've now exported to continue to dent the image of this country? That's really a sad one, and it seems to particularly be focusing on Nigeria. Anyway, we'll see how that plays out, but these things don't have to happen like this. All right, having dispatched with the lighter items on our agenda, it's time to delve into the substance of today's program. And for that, I will hand over to Yetunde to give us the headlines of the major stories we'll be looking at today. Yetunde, over to you.
Thank you, Dayo. Hello and welcome to the news updates on What's Your Take. First, the headlines. 1. Buhari. 2023 polls deepen Nigeria's democracy with peaceful, transparent, and credible outcomes. 2. Buhari. To hold valedictory EXCO meeting on May 18 as Nigerians grade his stewardship on the key areas to focus on his administration: security, the economy, and corruption. 3. Ekweremadu Ohanaeze carpets federal government for folding arms as former Deputy Senate Leader, wife, get jail terms for involvement in organ trafficking plot. 4. Dangote refinery. At last, 650,000 barrels per day refinery to be officially commissioned by President Buhari on May 22nd. Now the details. President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed satisfaction with the conduct of the 2023 general elections in Nigeria, considering the turnout of voters and the generally peaceful atmosphere under which it took place. He believes the polls taught Nigeria great lessons. According to the president, the 2023 election saw a remarkable turnout of voters and is proof that Nigeria's democracy is maturing. Despite some pockets of violence, the country has demonstrated that a government can be elected peacefully and fairly. President Buhari's three-point agenda in office was to tackle insecurity, improve the economy, and curb corruption. As he holds his valedictory EXCO meeting on May 18, Nigerians feel they remain as unsecured as he met them, if not worse. The economy did not improve, and corruption is far from being tamed. According to Vanguard newspaper, bandits occupy more territories today. More citizens have slid into poverty, with 24.8 million Nigerians facing acute hunger. As the president leaves office, Nigerians are said to be lamenting his failed objectives over the past 8 years. A former three-term deputy president of the Senate, Ike Ekweremadu, 60, was on Friday jailed in the United Kingdom for 9 years and 8 months for an organ trafficking plot. His wife, Beatrice, 56, was also jailed for 4 years and 6 months due to her more limited involvement in the plot. Meanwhile, the Apex Igbo Sociocultural Organization, Ohanaeze Ndigbo, has berated the federal government for not helping the embattled senator. Reacting to the UK court's judgment, the spokesperson for Ohanaeze Ndigbo, Chief Alex Ogbonna, said the federal government did not treat him like someone who has served meritoriously in this country. Rather, while he was facing the trials, the federal government came out with charges and allegations of corruption and seized his properties. At last, Dangote refinery is to be officially commissioned on May 22nd, most likely by President Buhari, exactly 1 week to the end of his tenure. A letter of invitation circulating on social media indicated that the commissioning would happen on that day. The multi-billion-dollar oil refinery and petrochemical company is expected to bring solutions to Nigeria's perennial refinery issues. And those are the headlines news stories we have. Over to you, Dayo.
All right, thank you, Yetunde. Well, that's a lot to unpack today, but we will be doing that with a guest in the studio after we return from this short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Joining me to take a look at the big stories for today is Paul Dada, a journalist and current affairs analyst. Paul is the managing editor These Times. Welcome to What's Your Take, Paul.
Thank you very much. It feels good to be here.
Great. Thank you for joining us today. Paul, let's start with this issue of President Buhari giving himself a pass mark on the 2023 elections. Do you agree with him that the 2023 elections were peaceful, transparent, and credible? And paraphrasing him, the best elections we have had since we returned to democracy in 1999, and possibly the best of all time. The reason it befuddles me that he can make such a claim is I look at the degree of disaffection in the Nigerian populace or in the Nigerian electorate about the outcome of the election. And I also look at the vehemence of the petitions. There are 5 petitions against the presidential, the declaration of the APC candidate as a president-elect. Matter of fact, the election tribunal starts sitting today to hear those petitions. So how does it come across to you that the president is claiming that these elections were the best or were credible, transparent, were free and fair, in spite of all this disaffection and disgruntlement with the outcome? What's your take on that?
Well, I wouldn't expect the president to deprecate his government's administration for the way the election went. But I do not necessarily disagree with him. And I also do not fully agree with him. Now, my point of agreement is in the area of the fact that, well, this election went the way other elections have not been going, in the sense that the beavers was deployed, and we had a lot of surprises, people, incumbents losing in their states, things that were not really common in Nigeria. To that extent, you would say, well, the beavers was able to check certain, some overvoting and to some extent, malpractices. Well, the reason people are complaining about this election is that many people are now very much aware, or many people are aware, many people are more conscious, politically. Now, the Nigerian elections have always been marred with irregularities. I'm a veteran of election coverage. I've covered elections in different states in Nigeria, and I've seen brazen or broad daylight robbery. I've seen vote buying and all of that. But people are complaining because they expected that with technology, there should have been an improvement. And if you look at some of the off-season elections, off-cycle elections, INEC was scored very high. So INEC took it a bit lower this time around because we still had pockets of violence and all of that. And I think the president should not be congratulating himself, even though you can say, well, there's a better development with this election, but he shouldn't be congratulating himself. There are climes in this world where elections are held freely, elections are not militarized, people go about their normal business and they vote, and the exercise is not marred with violence. So we are not yet where we should be, and it is not yet time for Nigeria to congratulate ourselves. There's still a lot to be done. Yet, yes, there's improvement, but there's still a lot to be done.
Good. So Paul, what you're essentially saying is that the president's claim that this 2023 election deepened democracy and it helped our democracy to mature a whole lot more, in spite of the fact that there were some irregularities. They didn't rise to the level of drawing us back, but helped us to move forward. And he also alluded to this Not Too Young to Run Act, which he signed, and says that was responsible for a lot of the youth participation. What do you think about that, Paul?
Yes, we have the Not Too Young to Run, actually, which has helped a lot of young people to even clinch positions now. You are aware of some state legislatures, some young people were voted and all of that. That's fine. I agree with the president that there have been some positive developments. But then I insist that it's not something to sing too much of hallelujah for or over. In fact, I heard people say, I've heard some people say, this election was the best, but I disagree. Maybe since 1999, yes. But in 1993, we had a June 12 election. It was even open ballot and all of that. There was no deployment of technology. Every right-thinking Nigerian would tell us that that has been the freest and fairest election. An election that was devoid of rancor, that was devoid of bad blood. But for the interruption or by the military regime, Nigeria probably would have been telling another story now.
Yes, indeed, Paul. Great insight. We have to move on to the next story, of course. It's still pretty much in line with what we were talking about earlier. President Buhari has said he can't wait to get out of Abuja on May 29th and retire to his hometown Daura in Katsina State. Mr. President came into office in 2015 promising Nigerians that he will fight insecurity to a standstill, wrestle corruption to submission, and give the economy a massive shot in the arm. As he leaves office after 2 terms, Paul, how would you score him on his 3-point agenda and other areas of governance? This golden question, is the average Nigerian better off today than we were in 2015 when the president came into office? Paul?
I definitely will score President Buhari very low. Politicians, especially politicians in power, they act like they live in alternate reality. look at the achievements and they congratulate themselves that they have done so well. But what is the reality for the average Nigerian? If you go to the streets, can an average Nigerian really say, yes, okay, my life is better? For example, you can talk about increasing the minimum wage to 30,000. But then, what about the inflation? Okay? Inflation, as we speak now, is at 22.04%. So, 30,000, what power does 30,000 have? Given the economic reality, you can talk about, giving the anchor borrowers program, trying to, help rural farmers and all of that. But many farmers, we know how much insecurity affected them, and they couldn't go to the farm. You understand?
Yes.
Today we are still speaking of, the truth is that Nigeria can't even feed herself. The other time we're talking about Indomie, that foreign Indomie produced abroad has been banned. But the truth of the matter is that they won't produce local. For example, the rice. Let's talk about local rice, for example. Local rice is very, very expensive.
Yes,
because of the cost. Because of the cost of production. Yes. So people will still bring in foreign products because we are not producing enough locally. So the poverty rate is high.
Yes.
Unemployment rate is at 37%, and it's expected to go to 40% this year.
So on the economy, you are basically giving him a fail mark. On security, you are giving him a fail mark. Corruption, how do you see? Has he fought that?
He has not been able to do anything in corruption. Under his watch, an accountant general of the Federation allegedly stole 109 billion. There is still oil theft, too much of oil theft happening. The NNPC is not transparent. So what are we talking about? What corruption has he fought? People like to pay lip service to some of these things. They congratulate themselves because of pockets of achievement. Let me talk a bit about security. I've always said this, and anytime I appear on TV, I keep saying it, that whatever strides that the administration of President Buhari thinks it has made in terms of infrastructure, Second Niger Bridge, Akano, Ibiam, airport, all of that. Whatever achievements it thinks it has made has been rubbished by the level of insecurity we have in the country. So many people have become orphans. So many people have become widows and widowers because of the unchecked activities of terrorists and unknown gunmen in quotes. So there is nothing to cheer.
Yeah, I hear you, Paul, but there are some people who disagree with you and say the second mainland bridge, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, Lagos-Ibadan train, Warri-Itakpe train, all the housing units they've built, that infrastructure is the backbone of the resurgence of any economy. So you are saying if you can't sleep well in your house at night, roads, bridges, and all these other things are useless.
That's it. That's what I'm talking about. Who will use the road?
If you don't have life.
If you don't have life. So who will use the road if you don't have life? I laugh because of what governor of Anambra State said recently to some civil servant. He said, look, you don't come on Monday to work. I'm going to slash your salary.
Yes.
I was on a particular TV show and I said, well, it is better for my salary to go,
and
for part of my salary to go, than for me to lose my life. It's better for people to lose their job than to lose their life.
Yes, indeed,
you know. So to just chorus achievements. As far as I'm concerned, whatever achievements Buhari has made now are Pyrrhic achievements. Achievements that whose costs are higher than the value.
And the benefit.
Exactly, than the benefit.
Cheers, Paul. I know that many can't wait to see the back of President Buhari, but there are also many who see him as the best thing that has ever happened to Nigeria.
Well, opinions will always be divergent.
Yes, of course. Different strokes for different folks. I guess that it is. So let's leave President Buhari aside for now, and let us take a look at what we have next, which is this issue of the evacuation back to Nigeria of our Sudanese brethren who have been stuck in Sudan for so long and are finally being brought back to the country. 800 of them as of yesterday. Well, how do you see the efforts of the government? Have they done well in terms of this evacuation process, or has it been business as usual from the Nigerian perspective?
Well, there were hiccups initially. The Nigerian thing, we don't wake up on time until we begin to make noise, you know. We heard of buses taking the students somewhere and then the bus drivers dumping them because they were not paid and all of that. So the Nigerian thing came to be. But then kudos to government officials like Ms. Abeke, Dabi Redewa, kudos to good Nigerians like Max Allen Oyema of Herpes and all of that. So we are relieved, very much relieved that Nigerians, our Nigerians who are in Sudan, who are studying in Sudan, are back. So it's a relief.
Let's look at the Ekweremadu case, Paul. That's a heartbreaker any which way you look at it. He and his wife were both sentenced last week to extensive jail terms. But what struck me was the fact that Ohaneze Ndigbo, as Yetunde said when she was reading the headlines, have complained that the federal government didn't do anything whatsoever to help him in his travails. What really, if anything, could the federal government have done? I mean, the Attorney General was one of those who wrote a letter in his official capacity pleading for clemency. So Ohaneze Ndigbo is saying that as a ranking member of society, as somebody who has done so well for the country with his foundation and with his legislative heft, that the government should have made more diplomatic moves to try and get him out of this situation. What do you think the government could have done? Is there, I mean, the law is the law. In a foreign country, the law has to take its course. Do you think the federal government of Nigeria had the wherewithal to change this outcome in a way that wouldn't have been so devastating on these lives?
I think many people are making a mistake. They don't know the difference between when a government is asking for a citizen to be repatriated. For example, if a citizen of Nigeria has committed offense here and he runs abroad, there is this mutual legal assistance agreement between Nigeria and some countries. You can ask, you can request that that person be extradited. I think we are getting it confused with someone who commits an offense, against their country of residence, or in Nigeria who travels somewhere and commits an offense there. Yes, truly, the fact is most of us may have done what Ekweremadu did.
Yes.
Most of us.
Most Nigerian parents would have done it.
Because if it was Nigeria, it would be a normal thing. But the truth of the matter is, the law is the law. The best Nigeria can do under these circumstances is to plead. And you just said the AGF,
yes,
pleaded. I know the Speaker of the of the House of Representatives.
Yes, and former President Obasanjo as well.
Yes, yes. They did, even former President Obasanjo. Yeah. Well, maybe the federal government should have put more pressure, should have intensified the appeal, or should have led it.
Lobby.
Should have led it, should have been more vocal in the plea for the UK. But the UK is not bound to accede to the request of Nigeria, because the law must take its course over there. And I think Ekweremadu made a mistake. He should have been very conversant with the laws. He should have sought legal advice and all of that.
As indeed all of us should have. We are fast running out of time. Let's look at our last story. Good news at last. At long last, Dangote refinery is about to be commissioned. The date has been scheduled a week before the president's departure from office, which is May 22. Paul, when this refinery finally comes on stream, is this the end of all our fuel woes? Is it the end of fuel scarcity, end of black market fuel? Is it the end of petrol subsidy as we know it? Will the refinery make petrol affordable at the pump for the average Nigerian? Is this something to look forward to?
Well, it's something to look forward to. We've all been waiting for it. The Dangote refinery, $90 million project. The Dangote refinery is expected to give us 650,000 barrels per day crude oil, and is the largest single train refinery in the world. The largest currently gives 40,000. That is Saudi Aramco refinery. Mm-hmm. But if the Dangote refinery works to its full capacity, it's going to be the largest. However, we shouldn't. This is Nigeria, we don't want a situation where we have to rely only on the Dangote refinery, where Dangote refinery will be a monopolist in that sector. What we expect is that Nigeria should refurbish the existing refineries. You know, I know that a lot of much money has been spent on turnaround maintenance, which did not turn around anything.
Yes.
We need to get very serious. Modular refineries are also being built. Yes. Let us make the space a little bit more competitive. We don't want only one organization dictating the prices and all of that. No. But it should, on paper, it should ameliorate our suffering. But I do hope that my optimism is very guarded, is cautious, knowing that I'm in Nigeria, I'm a Nigerian, and I know how Nigeria does what she does.
Very good.
Most times.
So better times ahead in the fuel industry for Nigerians, according to Paul Dada. We should look forward to better times at the fuel pump. And that is where we must rest it today, as we have run out of time. Paul Dada, thank you for coming on the show today. It has been a really engaging time. I wish we had more time, but that just simply means that we'll invite you again, and you have to join us again when we can explicate and look through a whole lot more issues. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you, Nigeria, for being a part of today's program. Join us again next time as we bring you trenchant analysis of the breaking news that made the headlines today and every day. I am Dayo Akintobi. Many thanks for watching. Have a great day.